good. I'm trying to time this now that the start is all proper. We will get better with this in the future, of course, as well. As you can see, Danielle and me are not in the office again. This time, I don't know what actually the reason was last time, but this time the reason is that the office is fairly cold and we're getting new windows. I think that was it last time as well. Not sure though. In the meantime, I edit for our home setups now the descriptions, and you can also see that we now have our Mastodon handles down there as well. We got asked for them quite often, and yeah, the reason why we have them is I think I can take credit for this. Daniel?
Yeah, sure.
Sure.
Like,
Okay.
I've actually really noticed my Twitter feed like worsening in terms of content. Like a lot of people from the InfoSec community have moved to Mastodon, and so
Yeah.
the Twitter felt weird the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Weirder and weirder. So
And I don't
um,
take credit for that. I'm just taking credit for I moved first, and the
that's
reason
true.
why
That's
I
true.
moved
Yeah.
was because, and this is what I wanted to tease. I'm a guest on the podcast Firewalls Don't Stop Dragons. The recording took place last week. Yeah, exactly a week ago. I think it was Thursday or Friday last week. The recording will be out, I think, next week, maybe the week after. I'm the first. I think in the 301st episode, so right in the episode after Mr. Schneider, and I just today started listening to that episode, so I have no clue about what they talked about yet. But an interesting part, as long as we're still rambling and not getting into the topic yet. A guest after a NordVPN management person. If you listen to the episode, you can look up. It's I don't think it's a C title, but he seems very senior. And if you're a Patreon backer of Carrie, and I would encourage you to support your creators, then you would get access to the bonus content. And in that bonus content, that NordVPN person, he actually uses the Portmaster, which I found very funny. And Carrie and I talked a little bit, I think, in our bonus thing as well. I don't know if it is actually in the proper episode. But yeah, people at Nord using Portmaster is funny to me. What do you think, Daniel?
I think it's really cool and shows like how powerful the Portmaster is, and that sooner or later a lot of people will be using it, and that's of course really cool for everyone, because that will also ensure that these companies will take care that we're compatible and we can work on that together instead of blame shifting.
Yeah.
So um,
Which
yeah, I
we
think
try not to do, but it's very hard if they keep on changing stuff and breaking compatibility. Like if it worked in a previous version of their software and it stops working when they do an update, I don't want to shift blames, but it just feels to me like they broke something.
yeah, changes happen and things break, and that's normal. But it's best if both want to fix that, then things will run a lot more smooth. Yeah, so I think it's great, and it shows how Portmaster will and is growing in the user base, and it's always nice to see kind of other companies employ our technology.
Yeah, that is
Yeah, or
true.
at least their users, not the company itself. Yeah.
And I think the Portmaster being sort of like everywhere also like was shown to us by Signal reaching out to us. Apparently, some compatibility issues occurred with us and them, and Signal directly reached out to us. And I think we already pushed a fix.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
already pushed the fix. So, Signal is not a big company. We are neither. I mean, they have a lot of users, much more users than. I mean, I think they know their users. We sort of can guesstimate, but of course, like Portmaster does not send us any telemetry data, so we have
Yeah.
no clue.
Yeah.
But we're also not in the App Store, so and I found the Portmaster installer on other places as well, which of course
Really?
is not official. Yeah. I don't think that
Okay.
that is cool. I hope that they don't tamper with our like binaries or
Yeah,
anything. So
should we start putting notices on our website? Please only download it from here, or something like
if
that.
they no, if they check the checksums, I don't care. Like if if the checksums turn out correctly, they
That is true, but I'm not sure how many people actually do that. So, ah,
that's true. But this is what
yeah.
I tell people. So that's there.
I think the people who check the checksums are the same group of people who will make sure 3 times that they're actually downloading from the official site.
We
So
also just got a message. I cannot say. I think it's dash dash. Thank you too for tuning in live. If you have questions live, we do have a topic today which I want to get into, which is mainly about those unsorted connections. But if you have any live questions, please chime in. So we always appreciate people coming in, especially on such short notice. I'm sorry, we have been busy. I just meant, Daniel, so that you know, I think I wrote an hour ago on YouTube that we're going
okay.
live in at 3 p.m. and I tooted right 10 minutes before we start going live. And I think I put it on the subreddit 30 minutes before. So the sort of was rolling. We are actually doing it as planned. Yeah. But no, sorry, I interrupted you. You were in the middle of something. I just wanted to
I think
address the
yeah,
message.
you mentioned that well we have checksums and that is true, but
Yep.
I think the people who will actually use the checksums also make sure that they download from the official website. So yeah, I I don't feel that checksums are worth that much for people who don't care
Yep.
where you download their stuff. So
And my
yeah.
checksum like calculating tool on Windows broke recently for some reason, and it took the whole Explorer with it. And I'm like, oh no,
Hmm.
what is happening here? Yeah, checksums. I agree. It's
Yeah,
stuff that
for all the Windows users, sorry,
yeah,
uh, our installer is also signed, so you can also just right-click the installer and check the signatures there. Windows will tell you. So
that is true. And what
um,
does it say there? Does it say safing.io?
it
Safing
says
ICS.
yeah, it tells our full company name, so it says Safing ICS Technologies GmbH.
Yeah,
So if you see that there, then that's good, and it's an EV cert. So
we pay money
uh,
for that. It's not something you get
we
for
pay
free.
way too much money for that.
On that topic, maybe because we're live and people, it's sort of recent. We have been talking about certificate and certificate authorities in the last couple of like weeks now.
That's
Um,
true. That's a great
is
topic.
our certificate authority like of course it's legit. I think we came to them through the official Microsoft page,
Yeah.
but like is it inside this conglomerate of like now assumed to be shady certificate authorities? Shall we change our like the
No, it
authority where
doesn't.
we
It
put?
doesn't matter from that perspective, and I think they are reputable.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
there are of course shady certificate authorities, but yeah, it's a whole mess. The whole thing is a mess. The recent thing that happened was that there's this CA called Trust Core,
yeah.
and
It's I
um,
think a root CA, isn't it?
it is a root CA, so they can pretty much do everything. And Mozilla has just announced last couple of days, I think, that they'll be fading out trust for that CA. So starting
Mhm.
today, they won't trust any new certificates, and they will be removing the CA in a year or so completely. So that's actually a very good move by Mozilla. I really hope that others follow,
Mhm.
because that's the whole thing with the CA system, that you're not kind of trusting this CA for this thing and this CA for this thing. You're trusting every of these certification authorities for everything. Um, so that's really the big problem. There's only one needs to slip in order for your security to plummet. Of course, if you're attacked by someone who was able to get a certificate they shouldn't be able to get. And the thing is, we still have, I think, Windows has over 600 of them. in their store. And I think about half of them you don't even see if you look at the list. There's a special hidden list in Windows for extra certificates. Uh, I don't know why. It's just super weird. And so what we talked about is like how could the Portmaster protect you from threats in that direction? And we have done work in that direction already. So we have a proof of concept where we can actually live check certificates that go through that are used on connections. So that's actually pretty nice. It's not out yet, and we don't know when we'll get to finish that part. So, but that's something that we want to will further develop and integrate into Portmaster when we get to it, when like priorities allow it. So, and especially like kind of empowering users to
Get into it.
remove trust for the I think Trust Core CA when they want to. That's something that's definitely right up our alley. That's exactly how we want to empower users. And if we feel confident enough, also enable that by default to
Yeah.
protect all the users that don't even know what a CA is, because I think if you're using the internet, you shouldn't have to know what the CA is to use the internet securely. But thing is, yeah, a lot of aspects of the internet are pretty broken, security and privacy wise. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
um,
I'm glad that people start understanding what HTTPS is, and that they understand that like the S is important and stuff.
mhm.
And I think browsers did a great job there teaching this as well. Like if you don't see the S, it's important to make sure that you trust this website very much. That sort of what they're sort of missing there as well, as you should trust your location as well. Because HTTP traffic, of course, is unencrypted, and so it can be like there can stuff more easily be injected and so on. So
But it doesn't stop there. The point is that yes, the lock is good and like they've improved, but users still think, hey, when it's secure, that means the website is secure,
yeah,
and I can enter any information there. And no, no,
yeah,
no, no, no.
yeah,
That's not what that secure means.
yeah,
That's
that's true.
something. It's another part of that of the whole story, and it just shows like how difficult um, it is to bring security and privacy to like normal people,
Yeah,
non-technical people, and that's exactly the direction we want to go. Of
yeah.
course, the Portmaster still has a couple rough and technical edges, um, but that's the direction we are moving into constantly and constantly trying to improve there. So
A
yeah.
couple. And I think this is sort of like nicely tying into a live question, which we just got. It's about like I just read it there from dash dash again. Is there a technical solution to use Portmaster already on physical firewalls or routers, or only on the end device like desktop or laptop for the time being? And I think what I wanted to, so that was the question. And what I wanted to try it in is like, as you're saying, the direction we're currently going is making it easier. And I think most people who are like getting into privacy don't want to mess around with their router. They maybe trust their ISPs too much at this point already. So they don't touch the router anyway. And so if we would go into that direction, they sort of like, would maybe not be aware of what to do, and it would be
Mhm.
complicated. But further than that, maybe can you go into if it would be like what you see, like the next step, what we could do, or just in general, what do you think about routers and how performant they are, and if they could actually do it? And yeah, just I know you have a couple thoughts. Just leave me a little bit of breath in between so that maybe I
Okay.
can
Okay.
interject sometimes.
Okay. Good. Good. So, first of all, kind of to pick up on your thought, for people to install it on the network, it's not just configuring their router because it probably won't run Portmaster. It's buying and completely configuring a new router with Portmaster, and that's something very technical. So that being said, from a technology point of view, Portmaster can do that. There is even a experimental network service mode that you can enable. I will repeat, it's called experimental network service mode. And what we do is, instead of you have applications popping up, let's just see the IP addresses popping up there. And this is for now just DNS. It's not a firewall in a classical sense. It's more like a pie hole probably. And we will have support for inspecting forwarded traffic in the future, because we'll also need that on the desktops to support virtual machines and the like. So support will naturally improve for that, but if you really know how to do it, how to set it up, you can already start now, but only for DNS, and it will get better over time. But that's not something where we're actively developing in that direction. It's more kind of a side product, and we're like, okay, it's a day of work to make that work, so we'll just do it. But experimental, and you'll need to know, like, you need to read the documentation and the settings, and you know yourself how to set that up and correctly with your router and all that stuff. So
documentation is linked below, so there we go.
Yeah. So possible, yes. If you kind of are setting everything up yourself anyway. The one-click solution is for desktops and will stay there for at least a considerable amount of time.
Yeah. And as you already said before we went into that question, before it was asked anyway, it's our goal to make privacy more approachable for more and more people, and to sort of like having this CA thing in there, and maybe even just stuff where you can sort of investigate domains. This is much more the approach we're currently taking, trying to get people into privacy, and trying to help people improve their privacy by understanding what is going on, by understanding where it's going and stuff. And so those are features we're pushing. But one thing which many people are confused about is actually our main topic, where our understanding sort of like takes a backseat to us showing all information, I think. But do you want to lead us into the main topic for today?
So today we want to talk a little bit about two special apps, or like setting profiles. They're sometimes called, and they are conveniently marked with a question mark currently, so that they kind of stand out in regards to the other ones. So these are special apps that don't are apps themselves, but kind of are pool connections for various reasons. So the two things I'm talking about is the I think called unknown apps now, and we have network noise. So these two things we have. Let's start with the unknown apps. So unknown apps is kind of an app that where we put connections into that we don't know which application it was. Due to how the integration works on both Linux and Windows, the interface that actually sits in the firewall is a different one than the interface that matches the packet to the process.
It's called other connections. It's not unknown apps. It used to be called unknown apps. It's other connections and network
That's
noise.
true. That's true. We renamed that
because it was people thought that it is
it's
one
an unknown app. Yeah, no,
exactly.
Like, hey, there's this app and it's unknown. Could it be this app?
Yeah.
I'm like, you
No,
misunderstood what this means.
no, we
Yeah,
miscommunicated what this
that,
means.
yes, that of course too. So other connections. So we have this other connections. Thanks for correcting me. Um, so other connections just means that due to the firewall interface and the attribution interface being two different interfaces for the time being, there can be a mismatch between these two. So we can see a packet, then check it, and for some reason, the information is not there yet, or is gone already, or for whatever reason isn't in there. Then we end up with a packet we don't know where it belongs, and we don't just want to allow it because that's weird. We don't empower you, not kind of be silent about issues. So we put that in the other connections app, and which connections will also be there? Connections which we don't support attribution for. So, for example, if you like to ping servers on the internet, if you know what ping is, um, then that protocol is not supported. We cannot find out which process it belongs to because the OS doesn't tell us. And these are always put in the other connections app. So they also go in there. And TCP and UDP are the two most used protocols on the internet by far, but there are a lot more. And uh, all of them will also land in there. That will mostly never happen. But if you use very special software, or if you are kind of part of a networking company, then you might actually see some other protocols that end up in there. So that's kind of where you go looking if you can find it anywhere else. And of course, if you search through all apps, these will also appear. So I think that sums up that one. To close here, we are improving on the interfaces. So we hope that for most users, this app will just disappear and won't show at all anymore. So that's something we will improve in the future, and things will get better.
Yeah. And maybe just for stuff like ping and protocols like this, we will in the future then move it into the advanced feature. So like the sort of the direction we want to go, either we will go slide in a third level there, because the simple view as it currently is already like very complicated. And for people like my mom using it for the first time, she's like, what's going on here? And so as I said, we want to ease people in, and those other connections, like not calling it unknown app anymore, calling it other connections, implying that that the unknown component of it is known to the portmaster, like that it's not unregulated, but that it's like unattributed to
Mhm.
a certain application or something like that, is better explained in other. And network noise is better explained as well. Like I think like this is stuff that's like that we want to show you if you're interested, but if you don't like understand network noise, maybe it's not that useful to you. And so
Yeah.
what we want to do is maybe go more for reports, like Brave does. I think is at least on mobile, it gives you a weekly report about what's going on, stuff like this. And we want to do it more like what new apps are here and stuff. And we do our first step actually, which is, and I want to tease this a bit, the first hero feature we're doing for 1.1, our like supporters, people with Portmaster Unlimited or Portmaster supporter, voted on Discord to get the next hero feature will be an sort of like an statistic overview. Similar like in Brave, where you have those three numbers, which says block connections, upgraded DNS requests, and then upgraded SPN connections. So you have sort of an idea. And I know, Daniel, you have more ideas, but those are the three that I already
Mhm.
told people in Discord. Those were the three
Yeah.
that they were excited about and which they voted on. And so it's a similar thing where we like want to make it simpler, easier to understand, and sort of like built this learning curve towards understanding what like CAs are in the end, and like why and this is an actual thing. I got a question with somebody who was confused that there's a dot at the end of the domain. And I'm like, well, if you look at how TLDs actually should look like, there's a dot at the end. Like the browsers don't show it, but to sort of like tell you that this is the last digit, there is a dot at the end. But of course, .com dot looks weird. And so, but there's a learning curve, and this is what I'm trying to say. And I think more and more people will get into it and understand networking better. But for those who don't care or don't want to, and this is absolutely okay. Like not everybody needs to understand and I don't know why I'm keep talking about the OSI like stack so much in the last couple of like weeks, but if people don't care, that's all fine. And it's network stuff, and this is the reason why you use the Portmaster. This is the reason why you pay like for Portmaster Unlimited or Portmaster Supporter to make it like accessible to more people without them having to do like a degree in cybersecurity like you have, Daniel, or like many of our people on staff. They studied that stuff. They understand that very deeply so that we can implement tools which make it easy to understand and manipulate in a way that suits, that like serves you as the user and as the customer. And that's what we do.
Yeah, definitely. One last like privacy advice for the other connections. If you want to be on the safe side, you could just block everything in there. The applications will just retry the connection, and the next time it'll work out. So if you are kind of trying to lock down everything as far as you can, just block everything in there. It'll probably turn out okay. If there's really something you need in there, you can then make an exception anyway from the network monitor view. Yeah.
But maybe then a good thing, because you're currently you're now recommending like blocking it if you want to lock down. I think this nicely with the whole theme today moves into why aren't we blocking it by default?
Currently, we want to, our goal is to ease the adoption into using Portmaster. So the goal is when you install Portmaster, everything just continues working. And we seamlessly reduce your exposure to tracking and to privacy threats online. That's what we want the first installed experience to be. What we want to do in the future is to let the user decide what their initial experience should be. So they can choose, I want the no obstacles route where everything is going to be working, or I want the hardcore, just start blocking everything and I'll just make exceptions where needed. So in the future, we want to give users the option to choose between how they want to start out with Portmaster. Right now, the default is to use the easy route and to let users that don't know their networking stuff to have a very easy and seamless on-ramp.
Also, of course, this makes it easier. Like if you know, like if you changed it, the chances of you knowing what you changed and changing it back if stuff doesn't work is higher. If we like, because one of the things we change by default, because a regular user should not like need this, is we block all incoming connections. And I think the setup process doesn't tell people yet that this is the case. So if you install the Portmaster, fundamentally something changes about your system. Incoming connections are blocked. And we have a sort of like a couple of questions, and I think we addressed this in a last Saving Life. But this is the reason why sometimes printers don't show up or Chromecast devices don't show up, because Portmaster blocks those devices who are like broadcasting out. Hello, I'm the Chromecast. I tried to connect to you and to the internet and send all your data back to Google. No, that's maybe. And we block this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
We block it. And so you would have to know that there's a Chromecast out there to allow the Chromecast to connect. And the beautiful thing in Portmaster then is you can only allow it to connect to your browser. Like people who are using Google Chrome, I know those people who are like having a Chromecast on their TV. And if they want to show somebody something, they just hit share on Chromecast, like in their Chrome browser, and it sort of casts that browser tab on the
Yeah.
TV. And so I had a little bit of a private troubleshooting, and I went into their router. I set a fixed IP address for the Chromecast, and then I allowed only that IP address to connect only to Google Chrome on that person's device. And as you hear, like I would never recommend a person to use Google Chrome. Like you should never say never, but like I typically recommend people towards Firefox, or if they want Chromium, I recommend them to Brave or stuff, because it's more privacy respecting. But if
By
somebody
default.
by by default, yeah,
That's the important thing.
yeah, and so it's like moving people towards privacy means picking up where they are currently. And so installing the Portmaster and just telling them how to fix their Chromecast with their current browser and every password still in there and stuff, it's much easier. And so we want to help people to ease into the privacy life. And this is the reason why this is on by default, because everything should work. And only
Even
small stuff like this,
even
because we actually see that for most people, incoming connections are not important. That's the reason why it's
even Chromecasts and printers should work by default, because Portmaster detects if your device is trying to detect another device, and will allow the response in from that kind of network probe. So printers and Chromecast should work by default. If it doesn't, please raise an issue. We're going to look into it. Yeah. Should we move on to the second? Great. The second app or setting profile.
network noise.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, sure.
Noise. So
I'm
and
sorry.
that's kind of very similar to what we just talked about.
Exactly. That's the reason why I'm like
the network
confused.
noise is pretty much. I love the name. It's pretty much just that. It's static, kind of static on the network. Because especially Windows, and like a lot of other devices, such as printers and Chromecasts, they just love to talk a lot, and mostly others don't care. They just continue talking and talking, but your device doesn't care. What does it mean that your device doesn't care? That no process is listening, is waiting for these packets. But these packets are arriving at your device. So again, we don't want to kind of hide that information from you. We want to empower you. So we find a place for that. And for all these connections that come to your device, but actually no application is waiting for these connections and nobody wants to listen to them, we just stick that stuff in the network noise kind of app, where you see, okay, what's the chatter on this network? What's all the stuff that uh, nobody is waiting for, but still arrives at my machine. So that's just yeah, network noise, or like static in a network. Yeah.
And because Portmaster sees that stuff, I think we have not implemented it yet, but we have been thinking about improving, showing you, like with captive portals, that there is a Chromecast device and stuff. If you want to allow it, which applications should connect to. Not implemented yet, but we are aware of this. We want to work on this.
Yeah, there's lots of cool stuff we can do there.
Exactly. Haven't heard that many complaints about stuff like this recently, so it's sort of like died down again. And I think, do we have an FAQ for how to connect stuff? I think we do. So this of course helps as well, because it is supported. You can do it. It's like not that difficult. And if you already have something like a Chromecast, you already have stuff on your network, you're already a little bit further ahead on this learning curve. But of course, like, we are aware of this and we want to make it simpler and improve in those directions. And if you have ideas, of course, let us know. Let us know in the comments below. Let us know on the Discord. And we'd like suggestions like this, understanding where we can be easier for more people.
Mhm.
Great. So that was the network noise stuff.
Yep, that was easy one.
Well then, let me have a gander what the other stuff was. Yeah, like, I think the basic question, I know it's so far into the episode, but because we have been talking about this, people have been asking, and maybe we address this later on again. Is Portmaster free, Daniel? What would you say?
I think it is. So
You think it is? Okay.
I'm joking, of course. No, the Portmaster is free and open source software, so you can go on our website, install it, and on your device. And you don't need an account, you don't need a credit card. We don't ask for whatever. We don't send analytics back. There is no like data gathering. Everything stays in your device. So fully respecting, fully free. There's no kind of oops, 30 days are over. I've now blocked all your connections. Please pay now. No.
here's the crypto address you need to send some
Exactly,
Bitcoin to.
exactly.
Oh,
It's
don't
not,
let's not get anybody any funny ideas. As I already
no,
said,
no.
there are other like sources to gain the exe or stuff to install the Portmaster. Please be wary.
So yeah, what of course, like, and that's the important part. There is a pricing page. You probably have seen that one. And so which parts aren't free? The first thing that isn't free is priority support, because that requires a lot of time on our side, and we have to eat. So that's something we charge for. And the second thing, more importantly, is access to the Safing privacy network. And that requires a monthly payment because we have to rent servers and buy servers. And that's kind of an ongoing cost. So,
especially the traffic.
Yeah,
especially the traffic. Like, the
is
servers themselves, this is not that
yeah,
expensive.
they weren't,
but
they wouldn't be that expensive.
yeah, but internet, like, traffic costs money.
Yeah. So
I can tell everybody.
That's where kind of that money goes to. So, and of course, both of these plans, the Portmaster Supporter and Portmaster Unlimited, they both support development of all the free stuff. So we can make Portmaster free because there are paid plans, and that directly supports development of the free and open source Portmaster.
This is also why the supporter pack, and you did not say that. Yeah, and to answer the question, yes, we do accept Monero. We also accept Bitcoin. So I know I said Bitcoin earlier, but we do accept Monero. Ethereum is sort of paused after they changed to proof of stake. We were not sure, and it has not been used that much anyway. So we do accept Monero. To answer Dash's question. What was I going to go into? Yes, exactly. Also, to emphasize this, some feature you skipped was people, like, in the supporter and in the unlimited tier, get to vote on stuff in the Discord. As I said, they get some flair there and get user flair on the Reddit soon, very soon as well. That's in the current sprint. So I think this should be enabled within the next 2 to 3 weeks. Yeah, and in the Discord, they can interact with us. They have separate rooms where we give people the chance to vote on stuff, to discuss features a little bit more in detail, where we share some screenshots about ideas and stuff early on. So this, of course, is like, because you were saying, like, they're supporting the development. Yes, they're supporting it in a monetary way, of course, and they're also shaping it, or have the chance to shape it if they want to give earlier feedback. And we ask them first, and for instance, before we released the V 1.0, in general, the community on the subreddit just like tried it in beta beforehand, like the week before, and we found some very necessary stuff which we wanted to fix before we pushed the V1 out. And so this is stuff that's going on in the Discord. And as I said, like as you were saying, like people who support us get additional access there. But
Mhm.
in general, Discord has been nice to us. Yeah, the reason we're on Discord and not on Matrix is because we want to reach privacy people who are new to privacy. And the other thing which I wanted to also mention is we want to have early features, like early access to features for people in the supporter and unlimited tier. This will take some time. Though we're not sure how, like we have ideas how to do this, but we're not sure if at this point, when every feature, like those hero features, we will release for everybody at the same time at this point. So it's mainly about deciding what hero features now. And in the future, we want to make it possible that people who are in the supported tier and in the unlimited tier get it earlier for a fixed period of time, and then make it available to everybody else. So that they have something from like supporting this development. Their money is in this feature because they were able to pay like you and me, and they were able to pay help us pay everybody else, and so their money is in this feature.
And also, they will be providing the first feedback and shaping these features.
Yeah.
So again, that's a very critical part of that. So if we
Yeah.
kind of do the first iterations, which are the most important ones of a new feature, then they will be the ones to provide feedback and like tell us their use cases and tell us like what are they looking for, what are their needs. So yeah.
Okay, we apparently just got a message that there are people on Discord writing us. When we are already doing a shout out, now somebody in the YouTube comments mentioned that we should check the Discord. Thank you, John Doe, for mentioning this. We're already 41 in, so we are 20-ish minutes still here. Let me just quickly go ahead. I read the questions on the Discord and read them out loud. Or are you in the middle of something? Okay, then.
No, what I
Okay.
don't. Yeah, read them.
Okay. Like user 199 asks, I'm currently running an SPN node. So thank you. First off,
Great.
he is an SPN and Portmaster Unlimited subscriber, because I see then the user flare. So thank you, user 199, and he's running an SPN node, and it logs domains accessed by various ops. Isn't this bad for privacy? I guess you can't really do much other than advise users to use DNS over TLS or HTTPS. That's user 199.
Should we go into that first, or do you want to read the questions first?
That's the first question. He asked two others as well. I haven't went into them, but please go ahead. Answer
Okay,
it.
sure. So the this is separate from DNS over TLS. So what like I'll quickly explain how a connection works through the SPN,
Please
and
do.
then we can get to the question. So if you access a website over the SPN first, your DNS over TLS connection will be used, which also goes over the SPN. That will send the encrypted query to your secure DNS server. That will return, and then the actual connection after the DNS request will be made, and that goes over depending on your profile. By default, at least 2 hops. So the exit server does not know who you are and does not know like the first that does know the first server but does not know who you are. So that's enough to unlink the identity of the user from the destination, and the request, of course, to connect to the um, the destination server includes the metadata. So SPN is not a VPN, whereas it just takes all the data and just like throws it through the tunnel, but it just takes the kind of application layer. So including, of course, TLS, the encryption, the HTTPS is of course also part of that, because that encrypts the connection from your device to the server you are connecting to. And that, because we're missing kind of layers that VPNs have, we have to supply that metadata. So the port you're connecting to, the IP address, and the domain name, we supply that to the access server, so the access server knows where to connect to. So it needs the protocol, the IP address, and the destination port to make the physical connection, and then we supply the domain name to that, so that the exit node can do some better handling of these connections. So that's kind of in preparation to things like how can we improve access to services like Netflix, for example, that um, like try to block things like that, or also how can we improve server setups in that sense. So when one server is like, hey, I'm only handling requests for this domain, then we know, okay, we can improve server setups there, and we can kind of optimize the network for where things are going. So this is kind of stuff that we are going to do in the future a lot more. Right now, this data is not yet kind of processed on the exit node, but that's something we want to do in order to kind of help shape the network. Because if we know like where and what servers and what domains an exit is used for, we can look into that and see, okay, how can we improve connections? Where should we put the next server to improve privacy there? And the that information is there isn't a privacy problem per se, because that connection would be in the connection itself anyway, because uh, if it's not encrypted, it'll be there in the HTTP header, and if it's not if it's encrypted, it'll be in the TLS header, because TLS header also holds the domain name in order for the destination server to select the certificate. So there's not more information in there than is in a normal connection.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there's
So
kind
the
of
privacy needs to be in the way how it connects to this exit node anyway. This
yeah
is where the privacy needs to
yeah
be. This is
exactly
also the reason why the SPN is built for in this setup different to VPNs or Tor,
yeah
because a VPN server has all this information there as well at the exit, the HTTPS header, like the TLS header, as you were saying, and stuff like this. Yeah, no, and I talked with Kerry a little bit as well. It was very funny, him
yeah
like being such an interesting person to talk to when it comes to VPNs and their limitations, and how people sort of like misunderstand how much privacy that they can actually give. And I don't know who it was, but apparently a lot of people like how Tom Scott currently is talking about VPNs, and them to only talk like focusing on that they're like allowing you to be in another place, and mainly this. And that's true. That's what VPNs can do. And the SPN can do it too. But of course, an VPN can be faster than the SPN because it does less like calculations and encryption, and it's like, and the multiplexing and stuff that we do. It's different. It makes connections slower. Has great potential, and we want to improve upon that a lot. And this is where your supporter money goes to. But from a fundamental perspective, there is a place for VPNs, and I talked about this in length in the podcast. I just feel like it's not in the privacy sector. I think. Do
Maybe
you want to add something?
yeah, I want to stress the point that the privacy lies in the unlinking of the identity
Yeah,
from the connection, not in hiding information. That's what TLS is for.
yeah,
So we unlink. That's the main thing. And
and
kind of yeah.
but the unlinking is also done like how we like that the packages are like split differently, that the packages are like padded a bit as well, that the
There
sizes
are,
change.
yeah, there
There are
are,
measures. It's not just like there are two servers, data has moved around. So therefore there is technology in there as
yeah,
well. And I want to stress this because people are like, then oh, you're just moving data around. No. There's more than just wrapping
yeah.
and wrapping the packets.
Most importantly, it is wrapping. It is wrapping in layers of encryption. That's called
Yes.
onion encryption. That's what like makes Tor. Um, and so that's the most important part. And of course, there are anti-analysis things in there that
Yeah.
like all the data is going over one connection between two servers, not over multiple, which makes analysis harder. Packets are padded, so it's not that trivial from the outside to like follow packets around, stuff like that. So there is of course so much more depth to that, but the basic thing is the um
And I think
only
what you just said is a little bit confusing as well,
okay.
because you said one connection, that the connections are split afterwards. It's that the network itself has fixed connections, and the portmaster only sees those connections, those fixed connections inside the network, and only uses those. And this is to prevent this data
Yeah,
analysis stuff.
and that ties in what I wanted to say to the person asking a question,
Yeah,
where I think it was about like the operations. So that's kind of internal SPN terminology, where um, whenever a portmaster creates a new session on a server, that's called a terminal, and then on that terminal you can have many operations, and they all take kind of the same path and merge paths with other paths. So kind of if you use the SPN, your connections into a network will have kind of a tree-like structure because they will kind of branch off of each other, kind of in order to pack connections together in order to have them cover for each other to make analysis even harder
yeah.
of following connections through the network.
I
Um,
think there can be a long episode about this. We already did one about
definitely.
how
Yeah,
like we do handle like a packet request, I think, from DNS to like all the way to connecting to the website.
that's
But
true.
we
We had
skipped the
that one.
SPN back then.
Yeah,
I think it
yeah.
has been a couple of months ago at this point. But there is on YouTube one of the older videos where Daniel and I were talking in depth about how the whole like intercepting of packets works on the Portmaster, which of course is
So
complicated.
so
But I
the operation that this person saw in the logs
yeah,
is just that means that that kind of one request for a tunnel where some device said, okay, please create a tunnel for me to this server, and that's kind of one operation. It's one thing, one request to a server to do something for the
great.
purpose.
Great.
Yeah.
We have another question. I think this will nicely fit into the last couple of minutes that we have. Basically, the gist of it, it's also from user 199, and he's asking, or she, user is asking, does Portmaster GUI use Electron? And the answer is yes. I just quickly jump in there. But the question is from the
The answer
repo.
is yes and no.
Okay, yeah. Okay, good. Maybe. Okay, maybe.
Okay, okay.
Does it? I will just read the question. At Rafaela Daniel, does Portmaster GUI use Electron from the repo? It seems that way. What made you choose it, or some over something like Qt? And how do you handle or trying to handle the UI updates without a bunch of stutters and heavy resource usage? Yeah.
That,
heavy
uh,
resource usage.
great
Again?
questions. Great questions.
Yeah,
Okay,
I think so
so
too. And this is the reason why I want to address it. I think, yeah, we can go a little bit over.
okay, so we use Electron, but we use Electron mostly as kind of just an execution layer. The actual user interface is built in Angular, and if you are in development mode, you can just open that in the browser, if you want to.
Okay.
So the the uh, the actual user interface and the execution layer is a part, which also means we often update the user interface itself, but we seldomly update Electron. So uh, the big updates we try to kind of reduce to a minimum because it is 150 megabytes. I mean, I think it's zipped, it's a bit less, but still it's about 100 megabytes for download, and which isn't like that's quite a lot, especially for people outside of Europe and US. That can quickly amount to something that's not trivial. So that's kind of how DRs are separated. Why are we using Electron in the first place? Well, we're using it in the second place, not the first place, because the first solution we had was to use whatever web view the operating system would give us. Back then, this was still Internet Explorer for Windows. I don't have to tell you that this was more or less, well, a shit show. And then we were like, okay, we're having so many problems with this. This is not going well. We just there's no other way. We have to switch to Electron for this part and kind of as a temporary fix.
Yep.
And we are already looking into this new web view thing from Microsoft that's based on the Edge, like Chromium. Um, so that's something we want to get into and want to switch to make it better. Um, don't know yet when this will happen.
Hmm.
It is on our roadmap to improve this. Right now, it's an Electron.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Maybe then, why didn't we use Qt?
Um, because Qt is, for one, it is a framework that kind of is made for operating system for a special look and feel, and confines you to this look and feel. There is little freedom to how you can do things, how you can display information, and the web technologies that we are used to today is so much more flexible and easier to build. And there's so much more tools that can help you to build fast there. Um, that's the one part. And the other part is, of course, cross-platform. Of course, there is Qt for Windows and for Mac, but no. Whenever you install a Qt thing on Mac or Windows, you instantly recognize it because it looks so absurdly different.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah, so
And I think I wanted to, and you touched on everything that which I wanted to add to the thing you said before. The thing I wanted to say is yes, the cross-platform thing was important to us. We wanted to, and also the speed. We were already tackling 2 operating systems, and with Linux, it's more like 3 flavors of this operating system as well, so 4-ish basically. And everybody was telling us reduce, 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 focus, 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 and we sort of wanted to do both because we felt like Linux is where we wanted it to have and where it all started. And Daniel, yeah, was very much pushing for Linux. But Windows is where people needed it the most. So the same reason why we're on, like, tying back, why we're on Discord, why we're on YouTube. We want to reach people where they are. We don't want to tell people, well, first off, install this Linux distribution because on this distribution we feel native, and then install the Portmaster because this is very important for your privacy. And now go and find everything, figure out everything else. No, we want to integrate.
Start live from scratch.
Exactly, exactly, and we wanted to integrate into where people are, and so Windows was important. And so developing two platforms meant that we wanted to have an easy way to iterate on the UI as well. And as you already heard in this episode, there are a lot of UI questions which are still unanswered. And so having an easier way to develop and figure out what people understand better, how can we communicate better, and stuff like that. That was the reason why we wanted to go within Web UI. And maybe to address the heavy resource usage, yeah, that's the bullet we just took. We know we hate it as well. I hate Electron apps. I don't like that they eat RAM, like whatever. The Portmaster is an application that is supposed to run in the background, and so we've took this trade off. We said, well, it consumes a lot of RAM when it's open, but go in, change the things you want to change. We want to make it as simple as possible to change the things you want to change, then go out and that's leave the core running in the background.
Yeah, that's important to note. If you close the UI, Electron is gone.
Yeah.
The Portmaster is a system service that doesn't need Electron. Electron is just for us a layer for the UI, and if you close the UI, it's gone. Also, the icon in the system tray, that's also not Electron, and that stays there, and Electron is still gone. So you can close the window, and Electron is actually shut down and does not consume resources anymore. So important to note.
User 199 mentioned Tauri. Do you know Tauri.app?
Yeah, I've seen that already. Looked into it. Is one of I've looked into a couple lately. Not sure which one this was, but there are a couple new solutions that look quite good.
It's like blue and orange and black.
We will. Yeah, when we get to the point where we make a switch, we will check what the current solutions are.
Yeah.
And I think there's like Whale, and there's Tauri, and there's like two others, I think.
Yeah. There are different ones. We look at them. Thank you, of course, for the suggestions.
Yeah, definitely.
Maybe to say this as well, we are not, like, for now and for the foreseeable future, we will keep it like it is. But at some point, if it makes sense, we are open to adapt for the different platforms natively and have like an UI which like feels familiar on at least Ubuntu, Fedora, and probably Arch, because we have Arch fans and at Safing as well. So those three will probably be stuff where we want to have something that feels native to it. And of course Windows, and of course at that point we will probably be on Mac already as well. So you understand this will be far out, because like next thing will be Android, then it will be iOS, and then it will be a Mac, and then if we feel the need to do native on everything, this of course could change. But sort of like, I want to make sure that if people are asking, we're not married to Electron, and you already said that. We are sort of like exploring different opportunities in regards to this, but we're also not very like tied into how we are currently doing it. We think, of course, that the Portmaster looks cool. We think that having it with web technology makes it easier to change stuff around, and those are sort of like the two things where we are currently focusing on, and this is the reason why we're in there. But we're not tying ourselves up in this, and we will move on if it makes sense from a resource perspective, of course, as well. So if you feel like you want to see this earlier, let us know in the Discord, and get a couple of friends together to support us, and we will hire somebody who will do native UIs for your favorite platform. But a developer costs a lot of money, so we're at the moment we want to focus on getting the most bang for the buck, and having great experiences for the most people. And yeah, Electron was sort of like the decision we had to make back then. Cool. I feel like I'm just quickly checking. This is, I think, the last thing from Discord. Oh, there has been a new message from Dash. Do you always do live sessions like this on certain days? Yes, we do. No, it's not every Thursday at 1500. It's every second Thursday. We don't have the time to do it every week. We are a software company. We don't do and let's companies is big here. We are less than 10 people. So we're you see almost quarter of the staff here. So we can't do this every week. Even though it's fun. It's a lot of fun. But it is 1500. We try to do it every week, and if Daniel is not here,
every other week.
Every other week, yeah. And if Daniel is not here, I try to do it on my own. I think I did it once on my own. But now that this setup sort of is working, we will maybe just keep it like this. Would live for YouTube to get more coverage. Oh yeah, I understand that if it's regular, but yeah, Debian, yeah. Dash also mentioned Debian. I know I mumbled there. Sorry, Dash, for not reading out your full message there. But to address the Debian thing, we don't forget about Debian. But so of course .deb means Debian. But I feel like most sub distros I know I'm on. Every time stuff is talked about distributions, it's thin ice. But I feel like we have so many questions for Linux Mint, which we don't officially support, and I think especially the Cinnamon environment makes a couple of interesting decisions. But yeah, thank you, Dash. Yeah, he says less than 10 people and so much coolness. Yeah. No, that's true. That's true. Yeah, we would like to have the opportunity to grow. But yeah, with the growing user base, with growing support, we can grow our our staff as well.
I'm gonna die in a second. I'm at 2%. Sorry.
Your stream is gonna die. Well then.
Yeah.
Hit us up. Links for the Twitter and the Mastodon is below. You can always leave a comment afterwards on the video as well. I think that is Daniel gone, and see you.